Hello and welcome to the Rucker Report. I'm your host, JD Rucker, and this is the launch. This is the first show, the maiden voyage on this new endeavor of trying to do a show. I've considered it for years, really, doing a podcast or a vlog or radio or some sort of verbal audio and potentially video expression of what I do, and I've always been held back, I guess you could say, intentionally, because it was never the right time. I don't like to launch anything that doesn't have a reasonable expectation of being successful, and this type of format does require a commitment, and time has never been one of my assets, I guess you could say. It's always a challenge when you're in the past. I've run businesses and participated in various organizations. I have a family. I have my faith. I have a lot of things going, as most Americans do. I'm not special in any way, but I didn't want to commit. And when I was speaking to a good friend, Jeff Dornik, from GateKeepers online, he didn't really push me. He just gave me the options, the opportunity, and most importantly, he said he would help. And so, with his help getting this launched, with his understanding and logistics and the network that he's built up, with some tremendous people who are contributing to GateKeepers online, I thought, you know what, this is it. Now, you're probably wondering at least two questions, maybe more. Number one, what is the Rucker Report? What are we going to do, and what is it going to be about? And number two, who the heck is this guy on my screen or in my ear right now? I am JD Rucker, and I'll tell you a little bit more about me here in a moment. But first, let's talk about the show itself. What is this going to be? My expertise is not really in theology. I'm a Bible-believing Christian. I read the Bible. I pray as constantly as possible, as realistically possible, and it's all just a whole bunch of questions for me. I'm not a Bible scholar. I should be, considering how much commentary and Bible reading that I've done over the years, but I'm not. I don't profess to be, and I probably will never be, as much as I'd love to be. It's something that guides my life, and I think perhaps that's much more of an important component. My true level of expertise surrounds the world, this world, the culture, politics, news. Those are things that have always captured my attention, and I think that applying a biblical worldview, seeing things through a biblical lens, understanding where we are in this world and why we need to be as focused as possible on injecting our faith into it. This is something that I think is important and lacking. You don't see nearly enough of it. There's always this great separation, even with Bible-believing Christians. There's this separation of the world and the spiritual world. Our faith and our day-to-day lives, and I think that there's an increasing disparity, an increasing separation between these things, as if they're not interlocked. Well, I'm going to use this show to explain. Of course, they're interlocked. It's all intermingling. The world of faith and our everyday lives are not two separate things. We must live our lives faithfully. We must read the Bible. We must make decisions based upon our understanding of the Bible and what the Holy Spirit guides us to do. So with that in mind, that's the predicate for what the Rucker Report will be. I will take the areas that I know very well, politics, culture, entertainment even, what's happening in the world, and apply a biblical understanding as best as I can. Like I said, no Bible scholar, but very well versed. I have read the Bible. Certain chapters I've read numerous times. I'd say Revelation, I probably read at least 300 times, not including taking snippets. I'm talking 300 times front to back. Book of Daniel, at least 100, maybe 200. For all I know, it could be 1,000. I don't keep track. It's not like a scorecard. even Genesis, Matthew, in the process of going through a very detailed commentary on the book of Luke. And so I do have what I believe is we'll call it an above average understanding of biblical doctrine. And I am a student and will always be a student. I can't imagine a time in the future where I will be a pastor or a Bible scholar or anybody of relevance when it comes to the biblical worldview. But as with every man, it's important that we have that understanding and apply it to what's happening in the quote-unquote real world. So that's me. Who am I? I'm going to go, for those watching this on video, I'm going to go full screen. I don't have the right software and apparently the right equipment yet to make this as good as it should be. I see Jeff's videos, and you could see every detail. Perhaps with me, you shouldn't. I'm not. If you're just listening to this on audio, consider yourself blessed that you're not being bombarded by this visage on the screen right now. So let's minimize that and go to the screen capture, the screenshot of GateKeepersOnline.com. But to understand me, I guess the easiest way is to go to my website. And I'm not the only writer here. I have many volunteers, many writers who are contributing to the site, and I'm very, very pleased and honored and blessed to have them working with me on this because it's important. It's called Knock Report, NOQ report.com. It's something that we started back in 2017. Didn't really get it ramped up and serious until about October of last year, October 2019. That's when things really started turning for us and became my full-time venture. Getting this to be a serious and relevant voice in conservative media, fighting the quote-unquote fake news of mainstream media, and putting forth a worldview that is biblical, that is conservative, and that fights the real dangers in this world, the dangers of radical progressivism, the dangers of cultural Marxism, the dangers of anti-biblical bias, not just in the media, but in every aspect of our lives. It is getting more and more difficult to become a Christian, to be a Christian, and to act appropriately within the Judeo-Christian faith here in America. Keep in mind, look, we can say all we want about how difficult it is here, and I do quite often, but I'm not naive. And you should not be either. The persecution, the true oppression that's being leveled against Christians around the world, in places like China, North Korea, throughout the Middle East, Iran. You think it's bad here because bakers are forced to bake a cake. Yeah, that's terrible. That's stupid. It shouldn't be happening. Because in America, we are free. We have the First Amendment. But other places do not, and they're not worried about whether or not they can bake a cake. They're more worried about whether or not they will survive, whether they will be allowed to worship as they are driven by their Lord and Savior, whether or not they'll be alive the next day, or if people who are fighting the faith, fighting the one true faith, if they're out there to chop our heads off. It's humbling because as much persecution as we face here in Western society, in America, it's nothing compared to what the rest of the world faces. And so one of the reasons that we put Knock Report out there is to bring attention to those things, to bring attention not just to political conservatism, but also to the religious right, the Judeo-Christian worldview that needs to be expanded, not contracted. It's in the process of being contracted, and this needs to be reversed. That is one of the reasons we made this. The site itself is doing very well, not nearly as well as I would like it to be. We do get some great press. We've got excellent traffic, some great endorsements. We've been pushed and I guess you could say technically endorsed, or at least shared on social media by prominent conservatives, Rudy Giuliani, Mark Levin, Glenn Beck, Mike Huckabee features us quite often on his website. We get links from Washington Examiner, Daily Wire. Pardon me. Yeah, we're moving up, and it's nice, but we need to get as much exposure as possible. We also need more content. Right now, on an average day, we're out there. We get about between 10 and 20 stories a day. That needs to be higher. So anyone who is ever interested, please feel free to contact me. I would love to feature as many conservative and or Christian writers as possible, because I think that patriots need a voice, and we would love to be a venue. We don't pay. This is not a fiscally thriving site at this point. We do need quite a bit more help in that regard, but we'll get there. Yeah, I'm very, very confident that it's coming. So with that said, that's what I do, but that isn't really who I am. I guess the best way to describe me is to know a little bit about me. I am first and foremost a believer in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I am a conservative. I am a husband and a father of 4. Have been for years. And my wife and I, we recently celebrated our 27th anniversary. So that is the second best gift I've ever been given. Of course, salvation being the first, but my wife is a very, very good second place to have there in that regard. Blessed again, like I said, with 4 children, and including a 2-year-old. Yes, in my old age, we're still reproducing, still spreading the seed. So be it. It is God's will. So I haven't always been in politics. It's always been on my mind. It's been something that's been a part of my life, really, before I was even an adult. But just as the faith has been. But I didn't really get serious about it until fairly recently. I came out to California back in 2007 for a nice, cush corporate job in marketing, and it was fun. It was great coming from Oklahoma, coming out here and making good money and living the life, enjoying the weather. And it was wonderful. But my heart was never in it. There was always a calling for something else, something, I guess you could say, broader or perhaps more pertinent. I've always had a blog that was based, that really, I guess, gave me a venue to express my Christian beliefs, my faithful understanding. But it wasn't until 2015, during the initial election period, the primary period, where something clicked, and I made a commitment to dive deeper into politics, to take advantage of a political atmosphere that needed new voices. There was so much, I guess you could say, stagnatism. I don't even know what the right word is. It was stagnant. It was not growing. There were the old voices of conservatism, and there weren't a whole lot of new ones coming out, and that was a little bit discouraging. So I felt that I should dive in, and I did. In 2016 is when a good chunk of my time became dedicated to politics. I owned the company. I had a partner, and I'm sorry, I skipped a step. 2013, left the corporate world and started our own business, also in marketing. Found a good partner and built a great company. We did very well. They still are doing very well. But in 2016, it became clear that my heart was more interested in politics, culture, religion. And so made arrangements, sold my half of the company to my partner. They've continued on, done very well. And now I am focused 100% on this endeavor, on Rucker Report, on making things great. It's a little funny because, let me take a quick drink. A little funny because my people who read the site understand that we are very much unabashedly supportive and in favor of President Trump. We are conservatives. His agenda has been very conservative, mostly populist, but with a strong, I guess you could say, overarching conservatism about it in regards to the fight for life, the fight against gun restrictions, the fight for the Constitution itself, for freedom of speech. There's areas where I have disagreed with the president, and with the Republican Party in general, especially as it pertains to limited government. I don't think that we're doing a good enough job of cutting spending, reducing government footprint over our lives, embracing limited government federalism as the appropriate and constitutional way for this government, for this nation to be led. But with that said, it's easy to be a Trump supporter when you look at the alternatives. It's easy to embrace the Republican Party when you look at the Democratic Party. Our conservatism has maintained a relatively consistent set of principles that are endorsed, at least during campaign times, by the Republican Party and by Republican candidates. Yet you look at Democrats and the transition over the last 15, 20 years, and in particular the last 3 or 4 years, has been just outrageous. This isn't just leaning a little bit to the left, or if you're watching on camera, I guess I have to lean this way to get the mirror image appropriate. But they're lurching to the left. They're taking it so far, so fast that this is nowhere near the Republican Party, even just prior to Barack Obama becoming president. This is nothing like what he was running as when he was still a senator. You look at Joe Biden's history. Joe Biden of 2003, 1996, that era, even back into the 80s. Yes, he is that old. He would be almost considered a Republican today. In comparison, now he's pushing everything so far to the left, his principles have been abandoned for the sake of political expediency. It's ridiculous, to say the least. So, that still doesn't explain who I am. I keep getting sidetracked. I am, when I first went on Jeff's show, Conversations with Jeff, he asked me the question, and I was actually oddly unprepared. It had been a while. I used to do interviews every 2-3 times a week, and I went into a hiatus. That's a story for the future because it's far too long, and it will bore most of you. But we'll tell that at a different show. But I had taken a hiatus, and Jeff's was the first show that I did, and he asked me a question that I'd answered so many times in the past, but I, for whatever reason, wasn't prepared for it. And he asked who was J.D. Rucker. And like I told him then, the off-the-cuff response is still the right one. I am nobody. I'm just a guy. I'm just a patriot. Just an American. Just a Christian. A conservative. Husband, father, and concerned citizen. That is it. I am nobody special. I don't have any specialized knowledge. I have been blessed with enough time to read the news, to assess what's happening, to read history, to read the Constitution, to read the Bible, to understand the Declaration of Independence. So, in many ways, I am just a product of the modern era, the era of this vast information. Read Daniel, that could terrify you. This vast knowledge that we have in this world. I have embraced it. I do enjoy the fact that I can get just about any bit of information in seconds at my fingertips. I can take out my phone and find the vast knowledge that the human population has accumulated over the millennia, and take that and answer questions. And so, I don't have a political science degree. I went to school for journalism, of all things, believe it or not. But I would love to debate just about anybody who has been in politics, who gets into politics, who writes about politics. I think that I have a very firm understanding in that regard. So, but who am I? The answer to that question is, again, I am nobody, just your new Rucker Report show host. So, with that said, if you have any questions, I'm an open book for the most part. Just you can hit me up on Twitter at JD Rucker. Go through the website. There's a contact button somewhere on the website, so it should be easy to find. And feel free to ask me anything that you would like to know. As I've stated, I'm not a Bible scholar, and we will be looking at the news from a biblical perspective. I'm not a big fan of, at least for me, I'm not a big fan of taking the news and taking the things that are happening in the world and finding the pocket version of the Bible verse to go with it. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that that's not me. I like to look at the biblical worldview as a whole. I view the Bible as the instruction manual, so to speak. In computer terms, it would be like the source code. This has everything that we need to live our lives appropriately. This is literally the instruction manual on how to live. And if I were stuck on a desert island, it's the only book that I would need, and I could spend decades. I could spend my entire life just reading the Bible, just absorbing it, because there really is that much to it. If you haven't found the time, if you don't, do whatever you can, make the time. The Bible is that good. And I'm starting to get a little bit preachy, so let's move on to a Bible verse that I think will fit in. As I said, this show is about taking the news, taking the world of politics, of whatever, movies, culture, foreign events, technology, take it all and apply a biblical worldview to it. Look at it through that appropriate lens of faith. And for today, I had originally planned on doing the show. It was the first day that I tried was shortly. It was actually the night of Tuesday. This was after the big election night, Joe Biden versus Bernie Sanders, and Biden came out again on top. And my goal was to, I want to talk about Joe Biden. And so I had this whole series of articles and tweets that I was going to discuss, and it didn't work out. Technology-wise, it didn't work out because, like I said, I haven't been able to put together the appropriate level of the right camera, the right microphone, the right background, the right computer programs to get this put together. But I didn't want to wait for it, so that's why we're doing the show with I don't even know it, a KitchenAid and a Breville, some sort of devices behind me that are used for cooking. So whatever they're supposed to do, they will do, and don't get me near them because I will probably break them. Future shows we will have technology better. I'm going to go get me a better mic and webcam and all the good stuff that I need. The right programs, just going to help me out with all that stuff. Much smarter than I am. So we'll get that together soon, but I didn't want to continue to wait. So we were going to talk about Joe Biden. That time's passed, and unfortunately, scanning the news and hearing the buzz, it is a oddly rainy Friday in Southern California, and the only topic of discussion is, unfortunately, the coronavirus. I know you're sick of hearing it. I'm sick of talking about it. I'm sick of writing about it. I'm sick of it. I just want it to go away, but it isn't. And so there are certain things that we need to discuss. If you are following along on video, you'll see my website. The top story is titled 3 Ways the Coronavirus is Being Exploited by Bad Actors. Now, I didn't write this article, and I disagree with some of it. Not all of it. I agree with a couple of points. Some of it is, I believe, wrong. But one of the beauties of Rucker Report and of GateKeepers Online is that it's about conversation. There is no such thing as I shouldn't say there's no such thing. We're not an organization that will suppress perspectives just because, me as editor of Rucker Report, just because I disagree with it, I'm not going to stop my writers from expressing their views. If it's not blasphemous, if it's not completely against the, I guess you could say, conservatism and Christianity in general, then I've got no problem with publishing it. Sometimes I'll even write counter arguments. This particular story about the coronavirus, I'm not going to write a counter argument because the points are valid. I don't agree with them completely, but they're there. And the concept, that I do agree with. We see all sorts of quote-unquote bad things happening with the coronavirus. Almost all of it is hype. I'm not a coronavirus believer that it's a hoax or some kind of scam. It's definitely real. It's definitely dangerous for people over the age of 60. If you're in the 70s or 80s, even 60s, you should be taking extreme precautions because it is a killer for you. For those who are under the age of, say, 50, it's not so bad. It really isn't. But you won't hear that much from mainstream media. South Korea just released some of their numbers, and they revealed that people under the age of 50 have about a 0.1% fatality rate. In other words, out of 1,000 people who are infected by the coronavirus who are under the age of 50, 1 out of that 1,000 are die. It's not a good thing. I'm not saying that one death, just one person died, that's still bad. I mean, it's definitely still bad. But with that said, considering the hype, considering the panic that is spreading, especially here in the United States, it's overblown. And there's no other way to put it. This fear is it's grasping at the masses, and unfortunately, it's spreading. And I'm not just talking about the coronavirus spreading. I'm talking about the fear. But keep in mind, I'm a firm believer that the fear of the coronavirus, the panic surrounding it, much of it is panic over the panic. It's not that you have millions of people that need 6-year supplies of toilet paper. It's that you have a small subset of Americans who made a run on toilet paper. And when word got out that they were making a run on toilet paper, then people were like, oh crap, I'm going to lose out my chance of getting toilet paper. So they went out and they started stocking up on toilet paper, and then it just domino effect from there. So that's that. But I'm not going to talk about the hype. I'm going to talk about the underlying cause of the hype. The reasons, as my good friend Scott calls it, the bad actors who are exploiting the coronavirus for their gain. For this, I will turn to a Bible verse. It's arguably my favorite. I mean, favorite is probably the wrong word. It's one that I remind myself of daily, simply because when we look at the world, when we look at politics, when we look at culture, when we look at the degradation of society, as it drops into this post-truth, it's beyond postmodernism now. It's now this post-truth society that we're seeing evolving it's dangerous. There's no other way to put it. It is a real danger. And so, where does that come from? I always look to Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. I'm not one who believes in things in this world scaring us. We shouldn't be afraid. We should be hopeful. We have a promise, and that promise is so wonderful. It blows me away whenever I start thinking of what is ahead for believers, the life after this life, the true paradise that awaits us. I often, my best way to put it is chastise people who have the perspective of, yeah, can't wait to get to heaven, but I really want to live for as long as I can. And that's understandable. It's human nature. I look at it kind of the opposite, though. I would love to be in with my Father today. That would be wonderful. But I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to continue in this world to do what I'm supposed to do, whatever that is. Whichever direction I'm led by the Holy Spirit, I want to do that because I'm supposed to, not because I want to live a long life in this world. I can't wait until the next one. But while I'm here, I'm going to try to do my part. And so I don't believe in fearing things, fearing consequences, I guess you could say, of this world. But we shouldn't be complacent about what is actually happening, why things are happening the way they are. As science gets smarter, so to speak, as information becomes more known, the truth of the Bible is becoming more clear. From archaeological discoveries to quantum physics, they have to come up with scientific theories to explain things away. Because everything seems to, the more they learn, the more it points to, hey, the Bible's correct. We are created. That in particular, just that alone, the science behind creation, it has essentially been proven. And it will never be quote unquote proven because there's no way to test it. We're not that powerful. We're ants in comparison. But with that said, we can see and look at what's possible and what's not. And this is where when they look back and they try to have an understanding of creation, and you look at the criteria of this universe, and they look at everything that has to be in perfect place, perfect order for us to be alive. They realize that it's not possible without the infinite. And so they've devised, the obvious answer for the infinite is God. Having an infinite creator allows for the infinite possibilities to come together to form this universe that has given us a place to live, a place to exist, that has allowed for thought. It's mind-boggling the criteria that had to fall into place perfectly. And to us who believe in the Bible, that's, yeah. If God created it, he would have created it to be sustained, to be allowed to exist. For quantum physics, for science today, they believe that the explanation has to come down to what's called multiverse theory. It was the Hail Mary pass, conceived, I believe it was in the 70s, where they started realizing that it is impossible for the universe to exist based purely on scientific theories, based purely on random chance, on happenstance, on the right series of events happening, because it went beyond the possibility of randomness. And so once they realized this, they had to come up with something, and by golly, they wouldn't allow it to be that God created the universe, in the beginning. They did not believe in the concept of Genesis, of in the beginning, so they came up with this multiverse theory. That's the level that science has gotten to. They're smart enough to realize that the Bible's true, and they're dumb enough to try to figure out any alternative to believing that what they've been fighting against for all these years, decades, centuries, millennia, is actually true. So that is why Ephesians 6:12 is so important. That's the reason we're having the Rucker Report in the first place, to apply this type of understanding to what's happening in the world. So what is happening in the world? What's happening with the coronavirus? I believe that my colleague was correct when he said that there are three bad actors who are exploiting the coronavirus. And I think two of the ones that he picked out were accurate. I picked out different examples. Well, I stuck with James Woods. We'll get to that one in a second. I just picked different examples of who these bad actors are. He acknowledged that there are dozens, and he picked out three major ones. I agree with two of them, and a third one I added myself because I believe that it is it is more of a conspicuous bad actor in the coronavirus debacle than the one he chose. So with that said, let's look at the first one. With this, I turn to a gentleman by the name of Brandon Straka. Brandon Straka. Not sure how he pronounces his name. I have chatted with him a couple times. Unfortunately, he's only introduced himself as Brandon, so I don't. I should probably research that before doing this video. I hate it when people call me JD Riker, or JD Rucker, or whatever. They don't really. But however Brandon's name is pronounced, he is the founder of the Walkaway movement. He was a leftist, a progressive, a Democrat through 2016 when he learned more about President Trump and in particular the way that the media was handling President Trump. He realized that there was a bunch of lies inherent in what they were saying. And so he started the Walkaway movement. This is really growing. It's actually miraculous how wonderfully it has grown. In really just about a year, maybe a little bit longer. So his tweet, he was referring in this tweet to Lawrence O'Donnell. Now, for those of you, which I'm assuming is the majority, who don't watch MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell is a journalist. He's a show host. He looks at President Trump as, if he believed in the Antichrist, then he would think President Trump is him. I don't know if he does. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm just saying that Mr. O'Donnell from MSNBC is very much anti-Trump. Here's Brandon's tweet. Of all the vile, disgusting things the liberal media has said and done since President Trump got elected, I don't think anything is as disgraceful and appalling as this by Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence, you have absolutely no integrity for stooping to this. Thank God I left the left. Great tweet. I retweeted it. Let's play it. I'm going to see if we can get this to play properly. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it in the audio. If not, it's 14 seconds, so we'll just see. You tell me. Can you hear this? Ready? Go.
More people are sick in America tonight because Donald Trump is president. More people are dead and dying in America tonight because Donald Trump is president.
Okay, so if you didn't hear it, more people are sick in America tonight because Donald Trump is president. More people are dead or dying in America because Donald Trump is president. This is a quote unquote highly respected journalist for MSNBC, who is essentially saying that if Hillary Clinton had won, the coronavirus would be licked already, or the damage would be mitigated, more people would be alive. This is a joke. Okay, this is the first set of bad actors in the coronavirus saga is the media and Democrats. We'll lump them together, which they often are, because the narrative is identical across the board. Their narrative is this: that the coronavirus is a killer. To quote Bill Murray from Ghostbusters. If you see a mainstream media report about the coronavirus, it's human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. That's what they're reporting. The reality is not so bad, but they're pushing this narrative because they want the president to fail. They finally, after all these months and years, they've been trying to tank the economy. Well, they finally found something outside of the president that could actually do it. The economy is tanking right now, and that's unfortunate because it's based upon an irrational panic. It's based upon a panic breeding more panic, and as a result, a lot of people are getting hurt by it. But they're not satisfied with just the people getting hurt and drawing their own conclusions. No. Mainstream media wants to draw the conclusion for you that basically, if President Trump, if he was gone, if it was Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, or we long for the days of Barack Obama. This is what they're saying. And legitimately, though there's nothing legitimate about their words. They want to use this as the Hail Mary pass to take out President Trump. They look at their choices between a socialist and a guy who's very possibly senile, experiencing dementia. Those are their shining avatars to take on a successful president. No, they don't trust that. They tried impeachment. They tried the Russia hoax. Now they're trying the coronavirus blame game, and they will be pushing this until it subsides, which we could be in for the long haul. For all I know, it could be over very soon, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think we've got at least a couple of months left. So we'll see. I'm not a doctor, so don't take my word for it. Could be weeks, months, could be longer than that. Who knows? Stay faithful, keep praying, and we'll get through this all. Like I said earlier, if you are old or if you are in regular contact with someone who is in their 60s, definitely 70s, absolutely if they're in their 80s or older, be very careful. You are at risk. You are in danger. The coronavirus is a killer at that age. For those of us who are under 50, it's just not that big of a deal. So calm down. Don't worry about the toilet paper. I'm not suggesting don't treat it like it's something serious, but these are the same precautions we should be taking at all times. When it comes to the flu, when it comes to other diseases, we should be washing our hands regularly, avoiding direct intimate contact with people when it's not necessary, outside of the family, of course. So, with that said, let's move on to the second bad actors, or set of bad actors. We already mentioned the Democrats once. I guess we'll mention them again. This is a quote from our tweet from James Woods, the actor, one of the few actors in Hollywood who is actually not dumb or unhinged. He says, "Can they," referring to Democrats on Capitol Hill, "can they be any more putrid examples of pure evil than they already are?" He's referring to an article from The Blaze. Let's open that one up. An article from The Blaze that says, "Report: Pelosi attempted to sneak taxpayer-funded abortions into the coronavirus relief bill." Yes, Mr. Woods is right. This is vile. This is putrid. This is hideous, heinous, evil, disgusting. Whatever you want to classify it as, to take the coronavirus and utilize this, that's spreading panic around the nation, utilize the coronavirus as a vehicle through which to push a progressive agenda. This is beyond the pale. This is disgusting. Okay, there's no other way to put it. And if this is true, it's unconfirmed, but I would say chances are pretty darn good. Their source is senior White House officials. This is according to the Daily Caller, who I guess they were referenced in this article by The Blaze. According to this, there is an abortion slush fund that the Speaker of the House is pushing and trying to attach it to the coronavirus bill. There are several coronavirus bills, and for some reason, only one of them has passed. I am not a big fan of the federal government getting very involved with this. I think they've already done their part, and they continue to do their part. That should be about information, guidance, I guess. But for the most part, the reactions really should come at the quote-unquote lower levels. Now, as a Federalist, I believe it's the opposite. I think the highest level of government is the individual and the family, followed by local government, then city, county, state, and with the federal government as the bottom tier of government, the last resort. They should be doing things that only they can do, such as issuing travel bans, such as assisting from a guidance and knowledge perspective, using their science, but not necessarily getting involved in, shutting down the NBA season or anything like that. I think it was, who was it? Chris Murphy, out of Connecticut, senator out of Connecticut, who was lambasting the president over, he's like, he was tweeting about how the president is not leading and sad that the schools are closing and events are getting canceled and launches are being postponed by other leaders in the private sector and in smaller offices, but the president's not doing this. The president's not supposed to do that. I wouldn't want the president to do that. That's ridiculous. Okay? No, we don't have a dictatorship. This is not an authoritarian regime. I don't want the president closing schools. Okay? I want that decision to be made at the local level, at the school board level, or largest at the city level. I don't even want governors closing schools because of the coronavirus, not just because it's not a big deal, but because it's not their call. We need decisions to be made at the higher levels, or as most people call it, the lower levels of government. We need decisions about businesses and events to be made by those businesses and event organizers. We don't need the president saying shut down all the schools, cancel the NBA, dogs and cats living together. That's not what we need the president for. We need him, as he's been doing, to issue travel bans, to keep the virus from coming in as much as possible, to assist, with the National Guard if necessary, to help find locations where coronavirus outbreaks are getting bad, to assist in that regard. But by no means should he be doing much more than that, or anybody in D.C. This is something where the individual holds the onus for protecting him or herself and their family. Wash your hands. Limit exposure. Limit, social contact, or I don't even know what the new phrase is. Maybe it's not new. Maybe I'm just old. But whatever it is, whatever they're saying to do, okay, great. Those are the things that the individuals can do. And then at the community and or business level, and again, maybe at the state level for certain things, maybe at the city level for certain things, but definitely at the smaller levels of government, decisions should be made whether to cancel this, postpone that, prevent this gathering, whatever. That's how this needs to be operated. We don't need a supreme leader in D.C. making these decisions, despite what Senator Chris Murphy says. So yeah, that's the second one. Pelosi, Democrats pushing for an abortion slush fund. That is an example of exploiting the coronavirus in a way that is wrong. It's obviously anti-biblical and definitely anti-American as well. So let's go to the third one. This is the one that my friend Scott did not write about, but I will at least talk about it. This is from Paul Joseph Watson. He's a InfoWars guy, and no, I'm not an InfoWars reader for the most part. I've seen it before. I think Alex Jones is a great entertainer. Have there been certain things that have come out of InfoWars that turn out to be true? Sure, but that's the nature of conspiracy theories. There are always going to be conspiracy theories that are right, even if most of them are wrong. So I personally am not a big conspiracy theorist, but in this case, with what Paul Joseph Watson is tweeting about, it does sound like something important, and this does demonstrate again bad actors taking advantage of the coronavirus. The tweet says, leftists reacted with glee upon hearing the news that President Trump as well as VP Pence came into contact with a foreign official who has since tested positive for COVID-19, the coronavirus. This is no organizational thing. This isn't Democrats on Capitol Hill or mainstream media. This is anyone, and I mean anyone. Political left, political right, Christian, atheist, Muslim, Hindu, Jew, whatever. If you as a human being are hoping for anyone, any other human being, to contract the coronavirus, then there's something wrong with you. I don't care how much I dislike someone. I greatly dislike Harvey Weinstein. I followed the cases thoroughly. This guy is, he's just a bad dude. Okay? I'm glad he's going to jail. I hope he never comes out of jail. But I don't wish him to be dead. That's not my call. He'll die when he's supposed to die. And I wouldn't want him or anyone else getting the coronavirus or any disease This mentality of, there were some tweets last week, including from I forgot her name, but a councilwoman in Denver, who basically said, look, if I ever get the coronavirus, or she was retweeting, she wasn't saying this, but she was retweeting somebody else saying that if I get the coronavirus, I'm going to go to a Trump rally, to try to spread it amongst Trump people. That type of mentality, you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be a Christian to understand that that's just wrong on every level. And this sort of thinking that's pervasive in today's society, it needs to stop. No other way to put it. Wish the coronavirus onto nobody. Seriously, just don't do it. Again, I don't care what your ideology is. I don't care how bad somebody is. That's not something to do. I'm not one who does not believe in punishment, but unless I were given the responsibility of being the punisher, either by law or if anything happened and given that responsibility by God, so be it. But that's not the case. That's not the case for the vast majority of people. So being judge, jury, executioner, and I guess doctor, coroner, whatever, that's not a good thing. Okay, don't do that, folks. Don't do it. There's a response to Paul Joseph Watson, trending in Canada, the boomer remover. For those that's referring to boomer, refers to baby boomers, older people. It's actually in social media. It's now referring to pretty much anybody older than you. So a 29-year-old could be considered a boomer to a 23-year-old, apparently. But so be it. Boomers are older. Those who are falling into that great risk category. 60s, 70s, 80s. These are boomers. And for boomer remover to have been retweeted or tweeted 51,000 times, my goodness, folks. Pray for sanity. Pray for good manners. pray for lucidity and common sense and common decency. That's what this nation needs. That's what this world needs. So that is this show in a nutshell. The Rucker Report is going to try to look at what is happening in the news, and by golly, I hope before the next report that there's something to talk about other than the coronavirus. I hope that people start coming to their senses and we can move on to other issues. Perhaps more important, perhaps less important, but just different. Because I think that there is a fatigue growing as more people realize that the coronavirus isn't so terrible, and the mad rush for toilet paper is so dumb that eventually they'll just stop and we'll move along to something else. But in the meantime, this is the news cycle. We're stuck with it, and that's what we're going to do. But thankfully, we, as discerning Christians, conservatives, and in general, Gatekeepers Online, podcast listeners and video viewers, we have the luxury of having other things to talk about. So when the next show comes, I will be sure to make it not about the coronavirus. In the meantime, again, I thank Jeff Dornik for inviting me. Thank everyone over at Gatekeepers Online for this wonderful opportunity. I thank God for my life and for more importantly for my salvation. And I thank you for listening. My name is J.D. Rucker. This has been the Rucker Report, and hopefully this will be the first of many to come. Thank you, and God bless.